The following is a project of our nonprofit newsroom. Support Midcoast Morning and local community-centered journalism today by signing up to be a monthly sustaining donor at chly.ca/donate. Doesn't take much money to support local news.
Hello and welcome to Midcoast Morning. I'm Joe Pugh. We're 10 days out from the federal election. There are 5 candidates running to be our MP in Nanaimo Ladysmith. For the NDP, there's incumbent Lisa Marie Barron. Tamara Cronus is representing the Conservative Party. Paul Manley is running for the Greens. Michelle Corfield is running for the Liberals. And Stephen Welton is the People's Party candidate. On Thursday, Midcoast Morning paid a visit to local cafe White Rabbit, hoping to hear what's top of mind for voters in Nanaimo as they get ready to head to the polls, Monday, April 28th. Today on the program, we're going to bring you those conversations. How are you feeling at this point in the federal election campaign as a voter, as someone looking to make their mind up?
Anxious.
Have you made your mind up, first of all?
Yes, I made my mind up. I'm going strategic.
What was that process like for you? How did you figure it out?
I can't remember how I found out about a website called smartvoting.ca. Probably like I saw it on Instagram or something. And then it has, I was so undecided before then. I just didn't know what I should be doing. Because I feel like voting with your heart is not great in this election maybe. Anyway, so I looked up who's trending in Nanaimo, who's like projected to win. And if you don't want them to win, because it is conservative right now, who you should strategically vote for.
Are there any questions that you would want to ask of any of the local candidates from any of the parties?
No, I'm going full strategic.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
What do you make of the fact that some of the projections are pretty close for this riding? There have been people who have suggested like there are 4 parties with a chance to win in Nanaimo Ladysmith, which is pretty rare in Canada. Like, how does that complicate even knowing who the strategic vote is?
Yeah, it feels, just so uncertain, and it's like a little bit exciting and a lot nerve-wracking. Yeah, and then you just kind of go around and you see all the different, I don't know what they're called, like signage on people's lawns, and everyone's just so divided. I feel like I was so supportive of when we might have gone with, what's it called? Not first past the post.
Proportional representation?
Yes, because I think that would just do... And you can see it now in Nanaimo, like how amazing would that have been if we had got that through. But we're in the system we're in, and so it's, Nanaimo feels very precarious.
Precarious?
Yeah.
In what sense?
Well, we're just like teetering. I have no idea what's going to happen on April 28th.
What's top of mind for you in this federal election? Have you been following along with the campaign?
I have been, yeah. More so with this campaign than in previous campaigns, I will admit. But with light of what's going on in the States, in my head, this has kind of become one of the most important elections coming up. I think it's definitely been something heavily on my mind as we've seen in the States. It's kind of looking a little bit scary over there in terms of the direction that it's all gone, but so I've been trying to do my due diligence and keep up on this election and where people are kind of standing and where my vote will go. Definitely more so than in previous ones, I will admit.
Let's say you could talk to any of the local candidates here in Nanaimo. Are there any specific questions you'd want to ask? Anything you want to know from them?
I'd like to know what the policies are pertaining to what's the word I'm looking for? What's happening with a lot of here in Nanaimo specifically, we have a really, really massive homeless issue, just about more than you'd really expect for a small town like this. And I do feel like how it's been handled in the past has been really, really poorly done. We had a few years ago, we had tent cities. They just went in with riot gear and tore up all the tents and kicked everybody out, and now everybody's just kind of floating around town, not really knowing where to go or where to be, or even worst of all, what to do about their situation and that. And I feel like there's very little effort being put into social systems to be able to kind of get these people back back to where they would like to be in life, whatever that may be. I think we're very used to just kind of shrugging it off and pushing them away, and shutting them out as if they're not even there, and then criminalizing them when we see them, which is really terrible. And I think here in Nanaimo, it's becoming even more and more of an issue that I've been noticing over the last couple of years has been coming up. Like the use of drugs has been on the rise a little bit more, I believe. There's been a lot of people I've even known have been affected by it and are now also on the streets and not really able to get themselves into a good position in their life, or they feel that they can't. I feel like even for myself, it's been like 5 years or so. Work is tough. It's hard to get work here. It's hard to get consistent jobs, and it's very flaky when you do have them. It's when you have a consistent, steady job, it's not necessarily that, even though it's presented that way. And I feel like that's a lot of what Canadians, particularly in Nanaimo right now, have been feeling for a very long time, and I think it's just been growing and growing and growing, and I haven't really heard a whole lot on these social systems to kind of help people in that position, or the homeless, or even young kids that are also falling into that system as well, into the streets and that kind of thing. So I would really like to hear a little bit more conversation about it happening here in Nanaimo. I feel like it's very, very quiet, and we would rather just not talk about it for the most part. So that would be what I would ask, is what kind of social systems are we going to do to help with this huge problem that's affecting homeless, affecting the young people of the city, and the youngest people of the city, the kids, as they grow up learning about this. But that would be my question for them.
How are you feeling at this point in the federal election campaign?
Very underinformed.
Do you feel like there's a particular reason for that? Do you feel like the information is out there?
I do believe the information is out there. I think it's like I don't know where to look for it.
What are the things you think are most important to you? What are the issues this election that you care about the most?
Yeah, I guess there's the housing crisis, of course. That's the first one that comes to mind, that housing is really inaffordable right now.
Is that something that you're experiencing, you're feeling in your personal life?
Oh, yeah. I definitely don't see I live alone right now, but my parents help me because I cannot afford it with the job that I'm doing right now. And so, yeah, like many people, I'm almost 30, right? Having to still live with roommates, can't really see the prospect of buying a home. I don't know, it just seems like a really far-fetched idea to think that I could ever own a home, right? Or, yeah, everything is just so expensive, right? It's like we're in an economic downturn, really, and it's just kind of getting worse, especially with our neighbors from the south, with the tariffs. It's just not great. And I think a lot of the reason why I don't even do the research is fear, to be honest, about what could potentially happen in the election. I don't know. I'm just, with everything that's going down in the south, it's very hard to see that not happening up here. And I think that's also informing my vote as well, is what is the candidate who I think is not going to be in line with what's happening in the United States right now.
We've got still about 10 days until the election, still time for you to make up your mind. Do you feel like you have a finger on the pulse of how you're going to do that, how you're going to decide?
Oh my God. No, I don't.
My name's Jameson. I live here in Nanaimo, and I'm a regular here at White Rabbit. So,
what is top of mind, Jameson, as we move through this federal election campaign?
To be honest, for me, it's really just about one certain party not winning. That I think is a common sentiment echoed amongst folks my age. But yeah, that's kind of the main thing.
So you're here in Nanaimo. pollsters are projecting that this is a pretty close race. There are 4 parties with like significant support that are pretty close. How are you trying to navigate that situation?
I mean, for myself, like I mentioned, it's kind of just important that there's one party that doesn't win. And so I've sort of just been checking the polls day to day, and I don't know, it kind of seems for me like it's going to be one of those moments where I'm at the voting station and I look and I see like, okay, what's going to be the best option here to make sure that the party that I don't want to win doesn't win. So yeah, I mean, I was kind of confused when, Paul Manley jumped in, but I know he's, had quite a bit of experience here locally, and I have quite a bit of respect for the man. So, but yeah, it's the vote splitting is something that I'm a little bit worried about. So, yeah, it'll be interesting to see how everything plays out in Nanaimo in terms of, sort of the 3 candidates who are sort of in the same boat in terms of, what they stand for, and the one candidate that's sort of in a different boat. So hopefully, that's what I'm hoping for, is to see that, there isn't a vote splitting issue. But
if you were able to talk to any of the local candidates here or ask them a few questions, is there anything you'd want to know?
To be quite honest, locally, not in particular. If I had the chance to pick Paul Manley's brain, maybe I would maybe just have a discussion with him and say like, and I know he's spoken about this, but did you have any thoughts about adding yourself into the race and the vote splitting, and whether or not it might have a negative effect on the local riding Nanaimo as a whole? And I think he has thought that, and so I think he probably has, folks on his team that told him we got a good chance whether or not there is that vote splitting. So, yeah, well, that's what I'm hoping for.
Regardless of what party wins the election, what are the things you want them to do? What are the things you would want them to change or focus on most?
I think the main things are just making healthcare more accessible to everybody is one thing. I really don't want to see anybody try to privatize healthcare in Canada. Another thing would be ideally making housing a little bit more affordable. So I think those are probably the 2 top of mind things for almost everybody in my age group. So yeah, those are the 2 main things. And I think that if one of the parties could make a significant dent into both things, it would really improve the quality of life for Canadians in general. So, yeah.
As we're recording this, it's still in the future. When this goes to air, it will have already happened. The English language federal leaders debate. Is that something you watch? Is that something you feel like, people in your circle, it moves the needle for them?
I don't know if it's something I would necessarily watch live myself. And for people in my circle, I would say, unfortunately, that's one of the biggest issues, is that they don't seem to want to be as informed as people who are older than them. I'm 29 for what it's worth, and I would say that that's kind of where social media can be dangerous but also effective at bridging the gap to people who are closer to my age or younger than me who really like the short form style content. That's where I think there's a really big opportunity for people to take clips from those debates, and if they do it properly where they don't take things out of context, then it can be a really effective tool to get to people who are closer to my age and sort of inform them on what's going on.
Any other thoughts about the federal election you haven't shared so far that you'd want to let us know?
Yeah, I'm glad that they picked 2 different days for advanced voting, and it's not all on a Saturday or all on a Friday, so everybody who gets a chance.
Jameson, thank you so much for sharing your thoughts.
Yeah, thank you guys. Take care.
Midcoast Morning is made possible by the Community Radio Fund of Canada and generous listeners like you. With your support, we can expand Midcoast Morning from 2 to 3 original programs per week to cover local news, current affairs, and arts and culture.
Today on the program, we're hearing from locals about what's top of mind this election season. On Thursday, Midcoast Morning visited Cafe White Rabbit in the Old City Quarter and recorded a series of conversations with folks passing through. We're bringing you those chats on the show. What are you thinking about in this federal election campaign when it comes time to decide how to vote?
Honestly, the thing that I think about the most is how terrified I am of the rise of fascism in our directly neighboring country and all of the insane stuff that's going on just south of the border. They're deporting people who literally are U.S. citizens, whether they were born there or not. I know that sounds, maybe some Canadians feel like that's not necessarily pertinent to what's going on in our country, but the fact is, we've got people like Pierre Poilievre who we don't really know what his actual values are, and we've also got the lesser-known People's Party of Canada, which may as well, in my opinion, be called the White People's Party of Canada, which is just, I don't know, it's really nerve-wracking watching these types of things kind of slowly rise to power in our own country. So yeah, I guess that's what I'm mainly thinking about. It's how our minority is going to be affected by the shifting political tides.
When you say, Pierre Poilievre, we don't really know what his values are, where is that sentiment coming from? What makes you say that?
I guess, to be honest, I think that I view politicians through this lens of distrust, and even though I know that he's spoken out against trans folks and stuff like that, and he has given a really good picture of who he is as a person and a politician, so I do feel on one hand I know who he is, but at the same time they all have this smokescreen where they don't really show you who they are or what they're about fully. There was that one, this is an old an old memory I have, where they tried to humanize Stephen Harper because everyone thought he was so robotic, and so they had him singing a Beatles song, for example. I don't know if that's gonna resonate with anyone, but we just don't know who these people are or what they're about on a deeper level, and that kind of makes me anxious. Hopefully I'm not rambling too much. I'm so sorry.
So here in Nanaimo, when it comes time to decide, this is where I'm marking an X on the ballot, what are you thinking about? You mentioned what's going on in the U.S. is really top of mind for you. How does that factor into the actual decision?
Yeah, so I don't know, coming back down to a municipal level, I look at the only person I've met and actually interacted with is Paul Manley, of all the people, Lisa Marie Barron and everyone who's running. I know it does kind of sway you a little bit when you've had that hands-on interaction with a person. It's stressful because with Canadian politics you have the first past the post, so you have to kind of think about what the popular vote is going to be, and it's hard because you have to kind of predict where should I put my voice? What should I put my voice behind that will actually make a difference? Does that make sense?
Yeah, do you have an idea of how in this race specifically in Nanaimo, how you could figure out that, if that's what's going to inform your decision?
I think just talking to my friends and neighbors. Of course, there's the echo chamber effect, and you have to watch out for that. You have to notice that, everyone ultimately is in somewhat of a bubble. But I think just checking it online, talking about, see what people are talking about on Facebook, and a lot of my friends are really political, so checking Instagram, just seeing, kind of keeping my finger on the pulse of what other people are talking about they're gonna, saying that they're gonna do. That's the best that I have. I mean, I'm sure there are better resources, to be honest, but I also I'm kind of working a lot and just doing the best that I can to keep my life as balanced as possible, and doing a deeper dive into politics. I'm sure I'll carve out some time to do it in the future, before I vote, but for the most part, if I'm being totally honest, I do check in with friends and family the most, rather than maybe a more objective resource.
If you were talking with any of the candidates, either specifically or in general, are there any questions you would have for them?
What are some policies that they're thinking about implementing that would I don't know, because there are so many things that it's impossible for me not to think about American politics right now. I'm just seeing so many changes take place so rapidly, and I'm wondering if they have any policies that they've planned out that they'd like to put in place that would like protect people's rights a little bit better, protect minorities, stand up for the environment a little bit more, and like, I don't know, just things that I constantly worry about, like climate change. Like, what are they going to do about that too?
Are there any other thoughts you have about this election, about this campaign that you'd want to share with people?
Can't wait to get it over with. That's about it, to be honest.
How are you making up your mind this federal election?
Yeah, I'll be listening to the debate this evening on TV. And I think just from history and keeping track of what's happening in politics, I know where the parties stand. And so a heavy part of it will be party platforms rather than particular people. But the person, the fact that I like Paul Manley and what he's done in particular, might, if it's on the edge, might have me lean more towards the Greens.
What are some of the issues you think are the most important this go around? What do you care about the most?
Well, shockingly enough, I think it's the U.S. and our interaction with them. So I am looking for somebody that has, that I think can present as well to U.S. and our tariff problems with them. But just generally, we've got the environment's always an issue, housing's an issue, education's an issue, all of those things.
You talked about, you're going to be watching the leaders debate. You're going to be looking at the different party platforms. I'm wondering about the local race, which prognosticators have said could be pretty close. There are like 4 different candidates who you could squint and see they have a chance of winning. How are you approaching that? Yeah,
so in the past I've been anybody but the Conservatives, whatever they've called themselves. And and so I have voted both Green and NDP in the past, and I'd be okay voting Liberal. As you say, the polls at the moment are saying, I don't know who's going to win. So I'm not sure how to vote strategically this time, where in the past I have voted strategically. So this time, with everybody even up, I might just vote with my heart and my head and vote Green.
Because it's harder to get an idea of who the strategic vote even is in Nanaimo?
Yes.
Are there any other thoughts you'd like to share about this election, this campaign?
Yeah, no, I don't think so. I would appreciate it if it was a minority government. I think the NDP in the last did a very good job in pushing things forward that maybe the Liberals wouldn't have done without a little bit of a push. So I'd be happy again to see a minority government. If I had my druthers, it'd be Liberal, NDP with a couple of Greens in there as well. And maybe it's Nanaimo that one of the Greens should come from.
Well, Stephen, thank you so much for sharing your thoughts.
There's a lot of fear in the world right now. I feel it. I think lots of people feel it. And yeah, my vote feels like it's going to be based a lot in fear of what's to come. It just feels very uncertain, and I want to vote for the person who I think has, I guess, everyone's best interest at heart. And it's hard to actually believe, honestly, that our candidates do really want what's best. And I think that also has to do with just my own outlook. I don't even necessarily 100% believe that's true. I think, again, it's a lot based in fear about how corrupt politics are. And yeah, there is this increased polarization, but I find my parents tend to lean quite right and aren't in the same panic that I'm in about the world. And at the end of the day, they're just people, and they have children and they love their a child. I'm the only one that I know of. And yeah, they're human beings. They love deeply. They care deeply. I think they do, at the end of the day, want what's best, I think, for them, and I think for others as well. So yeah, I think it's important to have the conversation with even our friends and stuff like that, and open up to the idea of just like disagreeing with each other and having some controversial views that might seem hurtful to some people. I just think like hiding in pointing fingers at people and calling people names and being really aggressive towards each other is not going to make politics any better. It's not going to make our votes any better. It's not going to make our candidates any better to not talk about these issues that we're seeing in the world with each other and being honest, truly honest about what we think of these issues, and not trying to please others, right? What do I honestly believe for myself, right? And trying to not let that be skewed by a fear of what others think of me.
Visitors to local cafe White Rabbit speaking with Midcoast Morning on Thursday about what's top of mind this election campaign. If you're hoping to learn more about our race locally, you have some opportunities next week. On Tuesday, April 22nd, at the Malaspina Theatre, the Vancouver Island University Political Science program is hosting a candidates town hall where both students and community members are invited to ask questions of our local candidates. That event runs from 7 until 9 the next day. Wednesday, April 23rd, there will be an all-candidates meeting at the Coast Bastion Hotel from 6 until 8. That event is being hosted in partnership with the Greater Nanaimo Chamber of Commerce, the Canadian Home Builders Association Vancouver Island, and the Ladysmith Chamber of Commerce. That's our show for the day. Thank you for joining me. I'm Joe Pugh, host and producer of Midcoast Morning. Jesse Woodward is our executive producer, and Arby Frew is our technical advisor. If you have a story you'd like us to cover, email us at news@chly.ca. That's all for now. I'll talk to you on another Midcoast Morning.
Midcoast Morning would not be possible without the funding of the Community Radio Fund of Canada's Radio Meters program and listeners like you. Midcoast Morning is a project of CHLY's nonprofit newsroom. Support nonprofit journalism in Nanaimo and on the Sailor Sea today by becoming a monthly sustaining donor at $5 or more per month. Support the program at chly.ca/donate. This program acknowledges and gives thanks to the Nanaimo First Nation as we broadcast and podcast from their traditional territory. Thanks for listening.